So you left the big rock and roll lifestyle that you were self-funding
Yeah.
To go into the service.
Thanks for funding it. Yeah.
Have you found that it's been a rewarding career so far with your 19 years? And I'll give your credentials here. Currently a flight chief, worked in criminal investigations. You're a
Yep.
superintendent for criminal investigations, operations planner, emergency management coordinator,
Yep.
and you have overseen nuclear weapons security options or operations. I have to say, knowing you, that kind of frightens me a little bit, but keep in mind, the you that I knew 20 plus years ago, well, you always did have a leadership bent about you, a leadership quality. And that's why when I saw you kind of pop up, I was like, oh, okay, let's talk to John. You were a leader then without even knowing what you were doing. So what have you learned? Like maybe what's a big lesson you've learned being in the Air Force, having leadership positions that you didn't expect to learn? Is there anything that you were like, wow, I never expected to learn this thing about being a leader?
I never expected to learn how difficult it is to be a leader sometimes. Because when you join the service, you're a lower ranking enlisted, you're just basically there with other kids your age, and the goal is to make it through the workday so you guys can go out and do fun stuff on the weekends. And then once you start promoting, all of a sudden you're not allowed to do fun stuff because you've got real work. You've got to take care of people. And so I wasn't expecting or prepared to be taught those skills, because in the military, they do formal training courses. So like for the Air Force, we do airmen leadership schools. So once you promote to a supervisory role, you have to go to a formal course that teaches you how to be a leader. And then once you promote to an E6 and a technical sergeant, you have to go to a non-commissioned officers academy. And that's like 2 months. And then there's all these other leadership courses you have to go through. And each time you go, it's building upon skills that you already have. And so.
And you went through each one of these as you were promoted?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't expect to learn all that when I first joined the military. I thought we were there to just travel the world, have a good time, shoot some guns and get paid doing it, but it's a very different thing when you actually take on leadership roles.
So you learned that it was not as easy as maybe the movies or the world makes being a leader out to be, right? Where we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, just that the popular culture media portrays leaders as, they stand up in front of an audience and they give a big speech and rah, rah, and everybody follows them. And they don't see what's behind the scenes. They don't see the work and the hours and the years, in your case, that you put into it. And that's significant. Would you say, John, that it was worth it to you?
In most ways, yes. Yeah. Because, when you're fresh out of high school, most people have two options, really. It's join the military or go to university. And ultimately I ended up going the military route. And I feel like the military prepared me more for life than a university ever could, because the university, you're going through classes, you're doing dissertations or whatever. But with the military, you're actually getting that real world experience. And also with the organization, they place an emphasis on leadership at a much younger age.
So when you're in a leadership position and you have men and women that are following you, do you feel kind of that burden of that responsibility on a daily basis when you wake up to go, look, people are looking to me for answers today?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we joke about it a lot. We consider ourselves sometimes the glorified babysitters, right? Because, like I'm 40 years old, all the kids coming in are 18 or 19. If they have parents' permission, they're 17, right? And so, we worry about them because some of them come from broken homes. Some of them, they didn't do well with authority in high school. And so they're struggling in the military. And then some of them, life happens, they end up having medical issues. And then on the top of all of that, there is the duty performance thing. So, we try really hard to not just mentor them on the duty portions of it, but also on personal growth. Like, hey, let's help you make a budget because you're underwater on your car payment this month. Hey, you and your spouse are having disagreements because of a long deployment, didn't go well. Let's get you into therapy. Like I think in the military, our leadership style is the term we call is invasive leadership. And so we're very invasive in our people's lives, but it's not because we're trying to be in there and micromanage. It's because we want to make sure they're doing okay. And so sometimes that requires you to practice invasive leadership to make sure they're okay. Yeah.
Interesting. I've never heard that term, invasive leadership. I teach a lot on what we call situational leadership, and it sounds
Mhm.
a bit like that, where
Yeah.
what you're doing is you're adjusting your leadership style based on the needs of your employee, or in your case, those who are under your command. That's a thing these days, right? People expect some level of, what's the word, customization for the leadership. In other words, you can't go in there and just be, hey, I'm going to be one style for everybody all the time, and I'm just one way all the time, right?
Yeah.
You need to adjust your leadership style. Do you feel like you're able to adjust to the different needs that your people have?
Absolutely. Yeah. When I first came in, it was very much a one size fits all. Here's the requirements. Here's what you have to do. Here's what you have it done by, and don't talk to me until it's done. Right. And so that's what we would do. And there wasn't room for asking questions. There wasn't room for asking for specificity. You just did what you were told. And if it was done wrong, you would do it again. Over the last decade or so, it has changed now to where they do teach the different communication styles for different airmen, right? Some are highly extroverted, some are very introverted, and some are somewhere in between. And so, yeah, as a leader in my role, it's my responsibility to communicate effectively. But part of that is ensuring that I am tailoring my communication style to the method that somebody most identifies with. The other issue too is like in the military as well, and I think this is probably separate from the civilian side, is that we often have to do what we call reprimands or admonishments, where somebody gets in trouble and you write them up. And when I first came in, the traditional model was you bring somebody into a room and you scream at them, right? And you just scream and scream and scream and tell them how horrible they did, have them sign a piece of paper, and then kick them out. But now the military has moved to a more of a model where you tailor that discussion with them based on their personality. So if there's somebody that's real like extroverted and likes to get really loud and all that, then maybe the yelling does work. But if they're quiet and they generally don't have much to say, that's not going to do anything but push them further in their shell, right? And we don't want that. We want them to be able to feel like they can talk to us. So yes, we have to tailor our communication styles based on the individual.
That's great to hear. And I had no idea the military was getting that sophisticated in terms of customizing their leadership, even down to the communication style. That's great to hear. So when we started talking about doing this episode, we kicked around a couple of topics, and we kind of landed on this idea of integrity. It's kind of a big word. A lot of things make it up.
Yeah.
So you've been in the Air Force 19 years. You live by a code where integrity is maybe the most important thing. What's your personal definition of integrity? If I say, hey, John, what in the world is integrity? I don't know what that is.
So I think in the baseline, integrity is just doing what's right when nobody's looking. But I think you can take it a step further if you're a leader. And integrity ultimately would mean doing what's right for your people, even if it costs you personally. Because in the military, a lot of times, because it's a hierarchical organization, a lot of times you will have leaders that maybe overzealously come after your guys, right? And so you sort of have to jump in front of that train and stop that, right? And push
Protect
back
them.
and fight back. And sometimes they'll say, well, we're going to issue, an admonishment to this person for this. And you say, no, I'll take that. I'll take the admonishment. And then that way, what that does is through that integrity of doing what's right, even if it's going to cost you personally, it builds trust, right? Because if somebody knows you're willing to take a bullet for them, or they know that you are willing to take their punishment, right, in their stead so that they can be better, they generally are going to trust you more, and they're going to work harder for you. And so we always talk about, diving in front of, catching a bullet or jumping in front of the train as a metaphor to protect our guys. And with integrity, that's really, there's a book called Leaders Eat Last. Have you heard of it?
Of course, Simon Sinek, sure.
Yeah. So Leaders Eat Last. Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing. You always put your guys ahead of you when it's feasible, always. And that's only going to breed like a trust and a closeness and a working relationship that's going to encourage them to want to work harder and work better and be more productive.
I love hearing this idea of understanding that leadership is about personal sacrifice, and it's not about personal gain. Now, you gain a lot from it, and it can certainly benefit you and does benefit you as you grow as a leader. But if that's your goal, that's going to come across to your people. And we've kicked around the idea of transparency.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. How are you transparent as a leader? How does that help your leadership, and how does it help your people grow by you being transparent?
Yeah. So with transparency, you always give the why. always. And if you can't give it right then and there, then you make, arrangements to give it at a later time, maybe when things aren't so hectic. If you're the type of leader that's just going in there and saying, do this, do that, blah, 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 right? You're not going to build any trust to your people. And then if you come up with some sort of directive that maybe is a bit unique, or they don't fully understand that, right? In order for them to do their job correctly, they have to talk to you. And if you're not being transparent about what it is you need them to do and why you need to do it, and the why is the most important part, if you're not giving them that information, then they're working without a full understanding of what they're doing. So you have to be transparent. And also, if you are a leader, part of being transparent means opening up about and owning your faults. So if you have a project and something goes wrong, and it doesn't go wrong necessarily because of the people below you. It goes wrong because you made a bad decision call. And as a result of that call, maybe they focus on something else, right? Then part of that transparency is, hey guys, I messed up. Sorry, I misdirected you guys. I misunderstood the direction. And so because of that, I did this. I'm sorry. If you do that and you are transparent with them, they're always going to want to work for you because they want to be kept in the loop. Even if they're not making the decisions, if they feel like they're part of the process and they're being informed, then they're going to want to work better for you.
It seems simple. It really does. But I think a lot of people, it takes them a while to catch on to that. Start with why. There's another Simon Sinek book. I love that. And that's the difference between working with children and working with adults, right? In my world, we talk a lot about adult learning theory. And the idea is for kids, you could just kind of tell them, hey, do this and go sit over there. With adults, you do need to tell them the why. And if you treat adults like children, then that's when you get the most pushback. Let's talk about accountability. You brought that up when we were talking earlier. Make that connection between transparency and accountability. I feel like there's a connection somewhere there between the two. What do you think that is?
So accountability for a leader is ultimately being able to take responsibility for your wins, your losses, and everything in between, right? And sometimes, because in this day and age, reputation is so important to everybody, they can't ever be seen to be weak or making a mistake or failing. They'll be transparent with their wins, but they won't be transparent with their failures, right? And you see this all the time on social media. You'll see some cryptocurrency influencer who every single time he places a long, he makes, 1,000% gains, but he never shows the losses.
Right.
So to somebody on the outside looking in, you're like, wow, this guy all he ever does is make the right call. That's amazing. But you're not seeing the hundreds of bad calls he makes. And so when you are being transparent and taking accountability of your wins and your losses, A, that lets your people know that you're a person too, right? B, it also lets them know that it's okay to fail sometimes because you're never going to shoot 100% of the time. You're not going to. And C, if you are transparent about your failures and your wins, then when they need somebody to talk to about a failure maybe they've had, they can come to you because they know that they can identify with you or you can identify with them about that specific incident. And also because you're in a higher leadership position, you could probably mentor them. But you have to be accountable and you have to be transparent. And then that ultimately leads back to integrity, right? Like you have to be able to be honest. You have to be able to tell the truth and do the right thing.
Tell me about this new program, this new project. What's it called? How does it work? What do you need on it?
Yeah. So obviously been in the military quite a few years here. Something I saw throughout my career was a lack of accountability and a lack of transparency. And in a lot of ways, the military system is designed for that. And what I mean by that is let's say an enlisted fella, he fails a physical fitness assessment, right? Well, he'll get a piece of paperwork. And if he gets 2 or 3 of those pieces of paperwork, he can be kicked out of the military, right? But he gets like 2 or 3 chances. With an officer, you only get, if you get 1 piece of paperwork, your career is finished, right? And so what happens is in the officer corps, there is this sort of need to never hold anybody accountable because, well, yeah, he failed his PT test, but he's a good guy. Do we really want to destroy his career? And so what happens is you have enough of those occurrences over 10, 15, 20 years, and you have an issue that started as a lieutenant where it could have been fixed, and now he's a colonel, and he's got 10 to 15 years of bad practices, right? And now that guy's in charge of 250, 300, 500 people, right? And so there have been a lot of attempts to sort of reframe like publicly or reframe the accountability aspect, especially for the officer corps in the military. But unfortunately, the officers are the ones that approve it. So there's always a little bit in there for me, you know? And so the idea with commander ratings was to create a platform that is completely outside of the DoD, where individuals can anonymously go and rate their commanders over a wide gamut of leadership criteria. So how are they on work-life balance? How are they on communication? Are they able to take criticism? All these things, right? And what it's doing is, through crowdsourcing all this data, what it does is it creates a score through all this criteria. So, you know, Colonel Johnson, he's great on communication, but he's not so good about listening to ideas, right? And so the hope is that this data then will make it to those individuals, and it will, and they can look at their score and say, okay, so the people I'm leading, they think I'm doing really good here, but I'm not making improvements here. And the importance of this is that lieutenant colonels, generals, they're not told no because they're so high ranking. Everybody wants to impress the general. Everybody wants to impress the colonel. And so they never actually get legitimate feedback, because whenever they come out and they talk to an airman, everything's good, sir. Everything's fine, sir. Because they don't want that general to get mad at maybe their captain.
I'm really proud of you, man.
Thank you.
You've done a great, service to the country, being the person you are and really caring about other people, and committing the time to leadership development in yourself. And then also in doing so, looking out for others and wanting to better the lives of people coming up after you. And that's really what it's all about. So thank you, my friend, for being here, and I look forward to talking to you again sometime.
All right.
And we will put do you have a website for the project?
Commanderratings.com.
Okay, we'll put commanderratings.com in the description. Viewers, thank you so much for being here. Like, subscribe, share this story if you would like to, and definitely check out John's website say it one more time.
Commanderratings.com.
It's easy. It's simple, right? Commanderratings.com. If you need some leadership training, call me. I'm your guy for that. See you next week. Thank you.